What happens when one of Hollywood's most beloved actors loses his cool on one of America's most popular late-night shows? Well, that's exactly what viewers witnessed during what should have been a routine promotional interview on Jimmy Kimmel Live. The unexpected confrontation between Danny DeVito and Jimmy Kimmel left the studio audience in shock and network executives scrambling behind the scenes. Before I get into the jaw-dropping details of this heated exchange, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out on the biggest entertainment stories as they break. The tension began building long before the cameras started rolling. Sources close to the production team revealed that DeVito arrived at the studio visibly agitated, complaining about everything from the temperature in his dressing room to the selection of refreshments provided by the staff. According to one production assistant who wished to remain anonymous, DeVito was definitely not in his usual cheerful mood. Something was bothering him from the moment he stepped into the building. When DeVito finally made his entrance onto the stage, the audience greeted him with their customary enthusiastic applause. He acknowledged them with a quick wave, but observant viewers could immediately sense something was off. His typically warm demeanor was replaced with a noticeably stiff posture as he took his seat across from Kimmel. "Welcome back to the show, Danny," Kimmel began with his characteristic grin. "It's always great to have you here with us." DeVito nodded curtly, adjusting himself in his chair. "Yeah, thanks for having me, Jimmy." The interview started innocuously enough. Kimmel brought up DeVito's latest project, a dark comedy film in which he plays a retired hitman forced back into the world of contract killing when his family is threatened. The conversation flowed naturally as DeVito discussed his preparation for the role and shared some amusing anecdotes from the set. "I had to do some pretty intense physical training for this one," DeVito explained, gesturing with his hand. "Not easy at my age, you know. Had to work with a former military consultant who put me through the ringer." Kimmel responded with a chuckle, asking if DeVito had to do his own stunts. "Most of them, yeah. The director wanted authenticity. There's this one scene where I'm climbing up the side of a building. That took 17 takes. My knees were killing me by the end of it." The audience laughed, and for a moment it seemed the interview would proceed as planned. However, the atmosphere shifted dramatically when Kimmel decided to broach a more sensitive topic. "So I heard through the grapevine that you and your co-star didn't exactly hit it off during filming. Care to comment on those rumors?" Kimmel said casually. DeVito's face visibly darkened. "Not sure where you're getting your information from, Jimmy," he replied, his voice taking on an edge that hadn't been there before. Moments later, Kimmel continued, seemingly oblivious to DeVito's growing discomfort. "Oh, you know how it is in Hollywood. Word travels fast. Maybe it would be better if we stuck to talking about the movie." DeVito attempted to redirect the conversation, but Kimmel pressed further, sensing that he had touched on something interesting. "Come on, Danny, the audience loves behind the scenes drama. Is it true that you refuse to be in the same room as her unless absolutely necessary for filming?" The tension in the studio became palpable as DeVito leaned forward in his chair. "Look, Jimmy, I agreed to come on your show to promote my film, not to gossip about relationships that are being misrepresented by the media." At this point, Kimmel should have backed off, but instead he doubled down. "So you're saying there's no truth to the stories about you throwing a script across the room during a table read? What exactly are you trying to do here?" DeVito asked, his voice rising slightly. "We've known each other for years. I've been on your show multiple times. Is this really how you want this interview to go?" The audience grew uncomfortably quiet, sensing the growing hostility between the two men. Kimmel, attempting to diffuse the situation with humor, looked toward the audience and quipped, "Looks like someone woke up on the wrong side of the bed this morning." That seemingly harmless joke proved to be the catalyst that set everything in motion. DeVito's face flushed with anger as he abruptly stood up from his chair. "You know what, Jimmy? I think we're done here," he declared, reaching up to remove his microphone. "I came here as a professional to talk about a project I'm proud of, and instead you're trying to ambush me with tabloid nonsense." Kimmel, clearly taken aback, tried to salvage the situation. "Danny, come on. I was just having a bit of fun. We can move on to something else." But DeVito responded sharply, "No, I don't think so. You've made your priorities clear. 20 years in this business, and I still have to deal with this kind of disrespect." The studio audience sat in stunned silence, watching the unfolding drama with a mixture of shock and fascination. The cameras kept rolling as Kimmel stood up, attempting to physically block DeVito's path off stage. "Let's not end things this way," Kimmel pleaded, though his trademark confidence was notably absent. "The audience came here to see you. We have several more segments planned." DeVito paused, looked directly into Kimmel's eyes, and said, "You should have thought about that before you decided to ambush me with questions you knew would get under my skin. Did you think I wouldn't mind being blindsided?" The tension between them was electric, with neither man willing to back down. Behind the scenes, the production team was seen scrambling, unsure of how to handle this unprecedented situation. "I think you're overreacting a bit," Kimmel ventured, trying once more to diffuse the confrontation. "These are just questions people are curious about." DeVito shook his head. "No, Jimmy, there's a difference between curiosity and deliberate provocation. You crossed that line." The studio was silent, captivated by the raw authenticity of the moment. Several people had surreptitiously taken out their phones, recording this unexpected deviation from the usual celebrity interview format. "Look, Danny," Kimmel said again, voice pleading, "I apologize if my comment offended you. It was meant as a harmless joke, not a personal attack." "That's exactly the problem," DeVito replied. "You don't even recognize when you're being offensive because these jokes have been normalized for so long. Would you make similar jokes about a female guest's weight, someone's race, or religion?" Kimmel's face paled at DeVito's pointed question, and an uncomfortable silence followed. "That's what I thought," DeVito said, nodding slowly. "Some things are off limits, but somehow my physical appearance remains fair game." The producers frantically signaled to Kimmel from offstage, drawing a finger across their throats, the universal sign to cut the segment short. Kimmel cleared his throat, visibly sweating under the studio lights. "Perhaps we should move on," he suggested. "No, I don't think we will," DeVito interrupted, voice steady but firm. "For once, we're going to finish this conversation. Do you have any idea what it's like to walk into auditions and immediately be pigeonholed? To have your entire career defined by something you have no control over?" The room fell silent, hanging on every word. This had transcended entertainment. They were witnessing a rare moment of genuine truth on television. "I've been in this business for over 50 years," DeVito continued. "I've won Emmys, been nominated for Oscars, and directed critically acclaimed films. Yet, the first thing most interviewers want to talk about is my height. The first jokes writers go to are about my height. Don't you find that a little sad?" Kimmel shifted uncomfortably. "I never meant to diminish your accomplishments, Danny. You're one of the most talented actors in Hollywood." DeVito responded simply, "Then act like it. Treat me with the same respect you'd show to any other accomplished actor on your show." A production assistant hurried onto the set, handing Kimmel a note. He glanced at it briefly before looking back at DeVito. "The network is suggesting we wrap this up," he said quietly. DeVito raised an eyebrow. "Of course they are. Can't have any real conversations disrupting the carefully crafted entertainment. Can we, Danny?" Kimmel pleaded, "Please, let's try to end this on a positive note. Tell the audience about your upcoming projects." DeVito, with a steady gaze, replied, "You know what? I think I've said what I needed to say." Standing up from his chair, he wasn't shouting, which somehow made his actions more impactful. "I didn't come here looking for a fight, Jimmy. I came to promote a film I'm proud of, but I'm not going to sit here and be disrespected, not even for publicity's sake." With deliberate movements, DeVito removed his microphone and placed it on the seat of his chair. "I think we're done here." The audience gasped collectively as DeVito turned and walked off the set, leaving Kimmel alone and visibly flustered. For several seconds, the host simply stared after him, seemingly at a loss for words. Finally, attempting to salvage the moment with humor, Kimmel said, "I guess that's one way to exit an interview." The joke fell flat and was met with uncomfortable silence rather than laughter. One of the producers rushed onto the stage, whispering urgently in Kimmel's ear. He nodded and then turned back to face the camera. "We're going to take an unscheduled break," he announced. "Stay with us," as the show cut to commercial. Behind the scenes, chaos erupted as staff members rushed in every direction, some following DeVito, others huddled around Kimmel, who had slumped in his chair, running a hand over his face. When the broadcast resumed several minutes later, Kimmel addressed the audience with a noticeably subdued demeanor. "As you may have noticed, Danny DeVito has left the building," he said, attempting a weak smile. "While I regret how our conversation unfolded, I want to take a moment to acknowledge something important." Danny raised some valid points about respect and dignity in our industry. He paused, carefully choosing his words. "Sometimes in our pursuit of entertainment, we cross lines we shouldn't." Tonight was a learning experience for me and hopefully for everyone watching at home. The sincerity in Kimmel's voice suggested these weren't just words fed to him by network executives, but a genuine moment of reflection. The audience responded with supportive applause. Danny DeVito is indeed one of our finest actors, and his work in Final Contract is truly exceptional. I hope that despite tonight's unfortunate turn of events, you'll all support his latest project. With that, Kimmel smoothly transitioned to his next segment, but the impact of what had transpired lingered in the studio. Something had shifted, not just in the dynamics of that particular show, but perhaps in the broader conversation about how we treat public figures and which aspects of their person. Who'd we deem acceptable targets for humor? In the days that followed, clips of the confrontation went viral across social media platforms. Public opinion was divided, with some criticizing DeVito for being too sensitive and others praising him for taking a stand against what they viewed as lazy, insensitive comedy. Neither Kimmel nor DeVito immediately released statements about the incident, allowing the unfiltered exchange to speak for itself. Industry insiders speculated about whether this would change the nature of late-night interviews moving forward, with some suggesting it might prompt hosts to reconsider their approach to humor at guests' expense. What remains clear is that for one brief moment, the carefully constructed facade of late-night television slipped, revealing the complex human beings behind the public personas we think we know. If you enjoyed this analysis of this significant moment in entertainment history, please hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications to stay updated on all our latest content. What do you think about this confrontation? Was DeVito justified in walking off the set? Or do you believe Kimmel's jokes were simply part of the standard late-night format? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let's continue this important conversation about respect and boundaries in entertainment.